This is Jim from Portage M&A Advisory, and you're listening to the Selling Successfully podcast, the show that simplifies selling your business for those thinking about moving into the next chapter of life. If you like what you hear, please follow or subscribe to find us easily and listen again. We're here when you need us. So today I have with me Liz MacRae from Village Wellth. Welcome, Liz. Really
Thanks,
excited
Jim.
to
Thanks
have
for having
you.
me.
Yes, really excited to chat a little bit further because I think today is all about talking about the evolution of M&A platforms and where things are heading. So I think guests today are going to learn a little bit more about technology and some of the automation that's out there. So thanks again for joining, and really excited to learn a little bit more about Village Wellth.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to digging into this today.
And Liz, I guess to kick things off, why don't we talk a little bit about you, where you started and how you got to Village Wealth? Are you able to, give us a little bit of your background and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I have a bit of an unconventional background. I have a fine arts degree. I am traditionally trained in oil painting and found my way into the M&A space through a number of junctions throughout my life. I'm originally from Prince Edward Island, grew up on the island, and made my way west in kind of 2007 area and time frame, and have been there sort of on and off. And I started in the M&A space when my husband and I had a small automotive franchise and we were looking to sell it. And I had brokers kind of turn me away and they said, it's not worth us taking you on. The fees don't make sense. It's too small. And so I tried to sell my business for a number of years by myself. And then I finally had a broker who said, "Well, why don't I take you on, and then why don't you join my firm?"
Hmm.
And so that was kind of the beginning.
Wow. So that was the evolution is you were on the other side of the equation. You had a business. You kind of had the experience of what it's like, talking to brokers and getting that feel. And eventually you found someone, you connected with them. They're like, hey, you're really good at this. Why don't you join the brokerage world?
Yeah, that was it. And unfortunately, the owner of that firm passed away shortly after I joined. And that led me to, I actually ended up purchasing the firm from her estate and I continued on. And what shocked me at that moment was, wow, I don't have very much experience. And look what I just did. I just acquired a business brokerage. And that scared me because I
Mm.
thought if I can put up a shingle and I don't have very much experience, and immediately for me, I'm very much like I want to work with the best. I want to have the best reputation I can have. I started surrounding myself with the best lawyers and accountants and CBVs that I could. I brought in M&A advisors who came from larger firms, and I stepped into a business development role because that was my background, sales and marketing, and we started to change the business model from a small business brokerage to more of a transaction advisory firm. But it really shocked me about, wow, how easy was it for me to get into this space and sell businesses. And that gave me, some trepidation about the space
Wow.
quite a
That's
bit.
quite the journey. And I'm just curious too. I mean, as a business owner, you made an acquisition and then you started looking at other businesses and helping them. Did you notice anything about the demand out there? Did you were you fueled by the idea that, hey, there's a lot of people like me who need help?
Absolutely. That's what fueled me to start Village Wellth. So
Mm.
Village Wellth is a hybrid between a technology company and a service company. And when I ran into my partners, I was on the sell side, and my partners were came from technology and finance, and they said, "Katie, what are you doing?" And what are you up to? And I was describing, what I was doing on the sell side, but I was also doing some buy side mandates. And we started to dissect what was happening in the acquisition space. And this was 5 years ago. And we started to realize, oh, there is quite a bit of demand for first-time buyers who are getting into the space and trying to make acquisitions and not having a lot of success, but nobody's really helping them get into these companies.
Mm,
And we're not talking about people who, just woke up one day and said, I want to buy a business. I want to buy a laundromat. We're talking about people who have really deep operational backgrounds, like mid-career professionals. They know how to run companies. They're solid leaders in their space, but they've never bought a business before. They've never done an acquisition before. And we saw a
right.
lot of demand in that space. And I saw it too when I was a transaction advisor, a broker. I was talking to buyers every day. And it was like on repeat. It was like, I'm looking for an enduringly profitable business that has good management in place and strong recurring revenue and recession proof. And, great, join the club. That was everybody else. And so that's where we thought that we could do more to help these people. And then now in the age of AI, we're in a place where we've already been building technology for 5 years and it is accelerating at such a rapid pace. It's incredible what's going to happen in the space in the next few years.
Hmm. So just to summarize here, you went from sell side to really seeing the buy side and some of the challenges that these, qualified potential business owners were having acquiring. Because I find that really fascinating. Because I think one of the things that I've learned too is if I'm to be successful on the sell side, I need to understand the challenges of the buyer, and oftentimes it can be ensuring that the bank feels warm and fuzzy about due diligence and about the quality of information they're receiving. I mean, it's a whole different beast, right? And it's equally as important as being on the other side of the equation.
Absolutely. And I think it's important too for business owners to understand the buyer's challenges. Like, it's
Mm,
not just about your company and whether they like your business and whether they agree with your valuation or not. They're faced with, taking that valuation and the agreed upon purchase price and walking it into the lender and then advocating for why they're the right person to run this business, and they're going to bat for all the information that the business owner has equipped them with to try and get this loan, and in some cases convince investors that they should put their capital behind this acquisition too. So they're really they're facing a battle behind the scenes that oftentimes the selling party is not privy to.
right. Yeah, and there's significant challenges. Like from what I've seen, obtaining financing in the US is very different than here in Canada, where lenders are a little bit more cautious. Amortization periods are a little shorter, payback periods are a little bit stiffer, and banks are looking for very specific outcomes and cash flow. And if it's not positioned correctly, they don't find a great banker. It can be really challenging and frustrating, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's not the bank, it's the
Mhm.
banker. Like, whose
Mhm.
desk did you land on that day?
Right.
And whether they see they see what you've brought to them as a compelling project to work on. And this goes for any type of advisor. If you take an acquisition or a transaction to an advisor where maybe it's the smallest business they deal with, or maybe they're already at capacity and they're just, they're swamped, and you show up and they're like, yeah, I can take you on, but you're not their favorite client,
Mm.
or they do much larger transactions and this is a small one for them. It might still be a large transaction in your mind, but in their mind, it might be very small. And so, getting the right advisor, whether it's legal, accounting, the lender, tax planning, that sort of thing, it matters a lot. We put a lot of emphasis on that, is like, interview your advisors, make sure that you're landing with the right people.
Hmm. It's interesting. So we had over the last 12 months a couple of experiences helping individuals acquire. So they had already They've identified the opportunity. They have started the conversation. In both of these situations, they had agreed upon the sale price and what that looked like. And they were directed to us by the bank just to provide additional guidance and support. Let's make sure the valuation piece was correct, maybe some due diligence, working capital. Now, one of the transactions was 25 million, so quite material, and it was an individual who was working in the business. He was already the senior, I guess, manager there, and he was buying it from the family. In the other case, it was $1 million transaction, and it was a highly capable individual who was buying this business, was going to step in and run it. And in both of those cases, even though the businesses were, very different size, the amount of complexity and detail were very similar. And the questions that both individuals asked were similar. The support required on the legal side, similar. And it was just fascinating because, as you know, we spend most of our time on the sell side. It was really interesting to follow their journey right through the acquisition. It is not easy. There were a lot of challenges and difficult conversations. So I can definitely see the value in helping folks through this entire process.
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. And if someone's never been through it before, it's like learning
Mhm.
another language. It's like being on a new planet. And a lot of it is, the positioning of conversations, like, oh, the seller said
Right.
this, or, this is the situation. How do I answer this? And a lot of it can be tact and coming across the right way. And yeah, there's a lot of things where times when things can just fall apart. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned things, you started this process with technology 5 years ago, and things are progressing quite quickly. What does the industry outlook look like in the next 3 to 5 years?
On the buy side or the sell side or both?
Both. I'm just curious, how do businesses trade hands in the next 3 to 5 years, and what sort of things are you seeing?
I think there's a couple things that we're going to see a lot of shift in. I think there is going to be more access to capital, I predict. Investors and accredited investors are finding out that you can co-invest in acquisitions. You can participate in owning part of a small or lower middle market company with someone who's buying it, and word is getting out that that the returns are quite healthy, and there's proof in the pudding. There's case studies and reports now that are published around these returns, and it's capturing the attention of investors, which fuels more buyers to enter this space. So I think access to capital is just going to fuel more buyers to enter this space. And then it's not going to be as much about who's coming to the table with the deepest pockets. It's going to be about fit. And I think uh, AI and technology and matching platforms and Village Wellth is one of those platforms where we match buyers and sellers together. And I think, when you're a seller and you're an M&A advisor and you have ample parties who are presenting offers and competitive offers, I
Mhm.
think it's going to shift more to, who is the right fit to take over the leadership of this company, and who is the right party to lead this company into the future and take care of its people and lead the team. And I think there's going to be more technology capabilities about finding and sourcing those people, not just on, okay, this party is looking for this type of business. We have this type of business, so there's a match. I think it's going to be more on those soft qualities going
Mm.
forward, leadership qualities, and growth strategies. So I think we'll see more of that matching compatibility that technology can bring. And I think honestly, I think on the sell side, I think we're going to see a shuffle in the M&A
Mm.
advisory space, because there is more technology coming out to help M&A firms run their processes. And I think, and we've already started to see it, that once upon a time, to be, a respected, reputable M&A advisor, you needed to be with a big firm who had, the right name
Mm,
on the door. And I don't think you need that as much anymore. I think there are tools in place to help M&A firms run their process much more efficiently. And I think, honestly, I predict, and you may not want to hear this, but I think we're going to see some fee shifting because the more advisors that enter the space, which is so needed, we need more
mm,
really quality advisors who are really professional in what they do. So I hope that we also see some more regulation in the space. But I think we'll also see more advisors entering the space and going out on their own. And I think that that will create naturally some fee shuffle. So I think,
yeah.
where the big firm and I think it'll hit the big firms too, because people will have optionality about where they go to for representation.
Hmm. That is interesting. I mean, if you look at the lower middle market, what I've observed over the 8 years that, I've been doing this with Portage is that it seems to be an area that a lot of larger firms didn't really want to navigate, right?
Mhm.
It's a lot of labor, it's a lot of heavy lifting for the return, and maybe AI is going to help. I think the other piece that I hear a lot of bigger shops say is, listen, like finding a buyer in this particular space, if they're not a large private equity group, is really, really tough. It's like needle in a haystack. And what you're creating is a platform where highly capable individuals can now go to find opportunities. And the matchmaking process is going to be a lot easier. And I can tell you, even personally, if we're running a mandate and it's a business that has less than 500,000 of normalized EBITDA, you're looking for a certain profile buyer, right? It's not a large private equity group typically. And now we can go to the platform and we can look at these individuals who can be qualified, who could be a good fit, and there's less, let's call it, vetting and mailers and a lot of work that I would say is unproductive, really to make these deals unattractive. And I kind of see that's kind of the opportunity that you've created is matching buyers and sellers in a space that's been traditionally extremely hard to navigate.
Yeah, and that's exactly our goal too. And we are designed to help these individual buyers to be able to compete in a way with private equity too, because private equity, they know exactly what they're doing. They can act fast, they can write a big check, and our members might be more qualified or a better fit for that company. And what they need is, they needed a process. They needed to be able to have the access to the tools that private equity does. They needed to be able to act fast. And we can connect them with that capital and that sort of things. And we've been building, internally, we've been building sim analysis tools where we can take the packages that you guys create and run it through our AI model, and it analyzes that deal much faster, and it allows them to go much faster. We're working on an automated letter of intent generator, so they can structure a deal, analyze the sim, and submit the offer within minutes if they wanted to,
Hmm.
compared to, sometimes weeks of analysis. And then by then, they might have lost out on the deal because someone else moved faster. So we're using tools to be able to speed up that analysis evaluation process and how they can consider structuring the deal and combining their sources of capital much faster than they ever have been before. And on the sell side, there are tools that are emerging in the space that make it easier and faster to do valuations and to draft the sims and do financial modeling and build the data rooms. Like, we've seen presentations of other technology companies that are building data rooms at an incredible speed. It's fascinating, and I
Hmm.
think it's really going to change the delivery model of the sell side.
Right? Because you can just get through the information so much quicker. You can analyze it. You're leveraging AI to be that lens, whereas before it's a human poring over all this data. Sometimes, very ambiguous data that's hard to analyze. So I can see that. But from a relationship standpoint, do you think that the human element of buyer seller connecting, building a relationship, is going to be kind of put on the back burner, or do you still see that as front and center?
do not think it's going to be put on the back burner. I think it is absolutely paramount. I think I don't I'm not everyone but in the tech M&A space agrees with me. There are people that feel like tech will replace the human advisory component. I feel like it's going to amplify, and I think it's a partnership. I
Okay.
think the advisors that embrace the technology, and then you're using the human relation components where they're needed most. You're leaning on technology for those kind of mundane, kind of more analysis tasks, and then the human is not removed from the process. They're reviewing and overseeing what the technology is doing, and then the human is there to, for those the soft skills that just can't be replaced. I mean, at the end of the day, a buyer and a seller still need to be provided with comfort and reassurance in their decision making. And I think that is very, very human.
I'm with you there. I feel like there's an element of partnership when the business goes from seller to buyer. And I feel like there's always a transition required, especially business in the lower middle market, where it's just impossible for you to write everything in a sim and for knowledge to be transferred immediately, relationships. And I think the deals that we've done and participated in that have gone really successfully are ones where they've looked at it as a partnership where seller says, "Hey, I want to help you succeed," and buyer says, "Hey, I'm respectful of what you built and your legacy." I I have talked to tech people too. They say Jim is going to be more transactional, and I just, from my experience, I've just found if that level of comfort, like you said, isn't there, oftentimes the psychology component will prevent the deal from moving forward just because on both sides of the equation they just don't feel warm and comfy about what's in front of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the core fundamentals of a successful transaction is trust. And that trust is built, direct human to human so often. And the technology, I think, will just enable both parties to have more confidence in their decisions and to move toward that level of comfort. But trust is a part of finding that comfort too. And it's trust between all parties. It's trust between the
Mm.
business owner and their advisors, and buyer and their advisors, and advisor to advisor, and buyer to seller. But ultimately, it's the buyer and seller who will be in that relationship for the long term. So they need to be able to build that foundational trust during the process. Um, from the early stages of introduction all the way through due diligence and then beyond, for it to be successful. And, the advisors kind of step out, most of us step out after the transaction has closed. But then, if there's that training and transition period, and then if there's an earnout or seller financing, and the relationship that both parties need to have, based on the contractual arrangements that are tied into the deal are part of the success that sometimes goes beyond our involvement, as advisors, which
Mm.
we ride into the sunset, and you know, they carry on together.
They have to, yeah. I know we talked a little bit about, some of the things that buyers and sellers can expect with respect to technology. Do you think, business owners in the lower middle market should get excited that there's technology and more buyers are going to be able to find them? And for buyers, do you think that, it's a bright point in time for them as well? Or is it going to be more competition because more buyers are going to be fighting for this same sort of deals? How do you view it from those perspectives?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think sellers should find more comfort in knowing that, there are tools there that are going to help their advisors do their job better and faster. And I think there will be opportunity to sell faster. I think we will see the speed of transactions increase, because I think the time it takes to do due diligence will decrease. Um, and the time it takes to find the right buyer, I think, will decrease. So I think transactions will move faster, which is comforting. Um, I think my advice to business owners is, be scrutinous about who you're choosing as your representation. Not all M&A advisors are created equal, and you want to know that they are leaning into technology because it's going to help, it's going to assist them in the sale, and therefore it's going to assist you in selling your business, and knowing that they've exhausted all of their resources to find you the right person to take your company forward. So I would say, be scrutinous about the process that they run and the tools that they're using. Interview them and push them on a little bit more of those pieces. For buyers, I think it will become more competitive. And I think buyers need to be more proactive in building a refined process in their approach. We're seeing it already, even and more so in the last, I'd say, 3 years, that competition for buyers has really increased, and you have to make a concerted effort to differentiate yourself and build a process and be more refined in what you're looking for, and be more focused on where you bring value in a company. It's, so many buyers start off, I'm agnostic. I'm looking for a company that, is profitable. And it's not just about that. It's very much about, based on who you are and your experience and everything that you bring to the table, where can you add value in this company that you're looking at and you're offering on, and then you're taking to the banks, and the banks ask you too. It's, why are you the right person to run this company? And as much as they're investing and backing the company, not investing, but funding this company, they're putting themselves behind the operator. They're backing the operator as an individual, and character assessment is very, very much a part of that. So I think it comes back to my comment about fit. I think fit is going to be on the forefront of transactions more than it ever has been before.
Right. And the cream will come to the top, right? Like if you think about more buyers having access to deals, I think sellers going to have a bigger pick. There's going to be a bigger sample size, and buyers going to have to move quickly. They're going to have to be sharp with developing the relationship. I oftentimes find too the buyers who are most effective are the ones that really dive into the opportunity quickly. They try to understand, is it a good fit? Why is it a good fit? How do I develop a relationship? How can I treat this like a partnership? What's a fair value? How do I get creative on structure? And the ones who treat it like a real estate transaction, they tend to get left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so. And I think it's hard as a buyer too, because it is getting more competitive. Sometimes you have to move fast without having all of the information, and having the opportunity to build the rapport and the relationship and come across very thoughtful. Sometimes you just have to go fast.
Yeah.
And so it's hard in that way, because how do you go fast but still portray yourself as someone who's thoughtful and intentional and caring and who is a good fit? But we very much coach our members. We're a membership service, and so we very much coach our members to do all of those things. But then in actuality, it's challenging. It's very challenging. So we we support them in, create almost like a personal brand. If you can use video, use video. Okay, so you can, share parts of your personality in a different way that makes you memorable. And where can you very quickly convey that you're the right fit for a business, even when you don't have the opportunity to maybe have FaceTime or go for tours and, you know, dine and, you know,
Mm.
dine with each other. So it's getting more complex in in those ways too.
Oh, that's cool. Tell me a little bit about Village Wealth in particular, and if you're a buyer or a seller, what should they know about Village, and how do they connect with Village, and what do they get from Village Wealth at the end of the day?
Yeah, so Village Wealth is a deal management platform. And so we have created a community based on a subscription model where people can manage their acquisition process. They can manage all the deals that they're looking at, they can evaluate them, they can work on, how am I going to offer on this business based on my access to capital, how am I going to structure this deal? And they can compare and contrast and evaluate deals all within our portal. And then our members can be accessed through our marketplace. So we've
Mhm.
got a really unique two-sided marketplace where folks that are selling can list a deal, but they don't just have to list it and everyone sees it and they blanket it. They can be very curated in their approach. So there's an algorithm that matches buyers and sellers together and opens up a chat. Both parties have to accept the connection. So they both have to basically opt in to speaking with each other. Both parties are anonymous until there's an NDA that's signed. So we've been very thoughtful in protecting the anonymity of both parties. And then when a seller lists a deal on the platform, they can also choose to keep it private
Mhm.
or to publish it in the marketplace where anyone can see it, but then they can also see their direct matches. They can see, oh, there's, thousands of people on the platform, but for my business in my region, in my size, I've got, 300 matches. And they can either let those 300 see that they're there, or they can keep their the listing private. And mostly we're used by M&A firms and brokers because they're running a competitive process. So when I say the seller, most business owners can use it, but most people want, they want support in selling their business. So most of the time it's the M&A firms who are using our platform. And the interesting thing is they can see the profiles, they can read and browse through who's looking to buy businesses. You can see bios on them. You won't be able to tell exactly who they are, because they're, John and Victoria. But you can get a bit of a sense who's on the platform and connect. So it's been a tremendous labor of love to build this marketplace. But yeah, we're just trying to bring both parties together in a more seamless way, but also to protect both the interests of both parties. And um, it's a very sensitive process, and so we're hoping that our tool will help just bring more people together and create more transparency and fluidity in the space.
That's fantastic. Do you guys have a, big, hairy, audacious goal in terms of how many transactions you want to facilitate or how many buyers you're hoping to have on the platform?
Yeah, that's a great question. We're hoping to have 20,000 buyers on the like subscribing members. So we see we have about a 20% conversion rate to a subscription right now. So if we keep that rate, that hits us at 100,000 buyers in the marketplace with 20,000 subscribers. But 20,000 subscribing members is our goal by 2027.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Mhm.
That's a lot of folks that one can leverage to see who's out there looking for businesses. And I know, as a seller, the most common question I get is, who's this buyer? Where are they coming from? Is someone out there really interested in my business, right? You've probably heard this a million times. And here's some evidence that these buyers do exist. You're not just fabricating some story.
And that's exactly why we built Village Wealth, so you could see all the buyers. I always say when I was on the sell side, there was two things that I heard consistently. And one was, I'm tired. And the second was, is there anyone even out there who wants to buy my business? And we
Hmm.
built Village Wealth so we could say, yes, there is. And here they are. You don't know who they are, but they're here.
Yeah.
And we could show them. So we even have, I mean, we've got firms that will share their screens and bring up Village Wealth and talk to their clients about the buyers that they're seeing and finding on Village Wealth. And they're picking them together. Like, yes, I want to contact that guy and that guy and this person, this group. So it's really neat.
Absolutely. That's awesome. I guess in closing, how do people connect with you or the platform? Yeah, and then learn more about what it is that Village Wealth is all about.
Yeah, thank you. So we have contact us buttons all over the platform. So you can go through the platform and connect with our team there if you've got questions about buying. We also place people with brokers. So if you're anywhere in the country and you're looking for a firm to work with, we can help there. If you're not already working with Portage, I haven't run into them. Um, And so then we also do webinars. We do webinars every month with a panel, usually a small panel of advisors. So we'd love to have you on our sessions, Jim. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. Happy to chat on LinkedIn. And then our events, we're hoping to do more in-person events. We do in-person events in Calgary right now, but we are planning this year to come to Toronto and Vancouver to do some in-person meetups, and those are really fun. We find we bring together M&A firms and brokers and our buyers, and then we've started to have investors come out to our events, and they're wondering how they can get involved with these acquisitions. So we've got that's our other big, hairy, audacious goal, is to bring investors into the mix and connect investors and capital with our acquirers.
Wow, that's fantastic. Thanks so much, Liz, for sharing all about Village Wellth, your journey, and for helping business owners and buyers connect. I think it's super powerful. Definitely a passion of mine. It's great learning just about your story and your journey.
Thank you so much for letting me share it. I really appreciate it. There's so much new technology and tools that are coming out in the space, and it's hard to know about all of them. So I appreciate you letting us share some of what we've been working on. Lots more to come too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Please remember to like or subscribe to keep this podcast handy, and we'll see you next time.